Are you guys gonna like tag team, go back and forth? Yeah, okay,
I think
okay.
we haven't really like,
You
we
know,
both
what?
know this.
We're just gonna be casual about the whole thing.
Okay.
There is a clicker on the lectern. You don't have to use the lectern,
Yeah.
but if you want to, it's up to you.
Okay.
Podium, lectern, whatever it is. And I have microphones.
Okay.
I'm gonna use one, so
How is the, so I usually talk this loud, if not louder.
that's fine,
Okay.
Yeah.
As long as Zoom picks it up.
because you have a microphone
Oh,
that is, yeah, so this is my new toy.
okay.
Tested it this morning.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed that it works.
Yeah.
So yes, it'll be fine. I don't know how many people are gonna show. So, you know, if I have a packed room, I get a microphone, but I didn't expect that today,
Yeah.
so
No, that's fair.
we're just gonna go with it.
Okay.
But, okay, so I'm gonna give you a microphone. Just clip it up on your chest. And then I'll give this to Keegan when I'm done speaking. Yeah. So you don't have to do anything with it.
Okay.
It is a perfect microphone. Now, how do I get rid of how do I get rid of that? Oh, now how do I get rid of that? Bottom. That usually doesn't show. Yeah, go for it.
Oh, now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. Okay, cool. All right, so let me test out the clicker just to make sure. Can you tell it's my first workshop of the semester? Okay, you're right. You're right.
I was like, oh, I hard pass for the semester.
Oh, you did it? Keegan! It's great to see you.
You as well.
Thanks.
I swear this building is built to trap ghosts. That's the only way I can explain the maze of doors and elevators that only go part of the way. And
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I bring it up every
time.
that I get, and
who designed this? Like, why did they design it this way? Was it built in like various stages by completely different people?
yeah, yeah.
That's what I think.
That's what it has
I
to
think
be,
they
like,
started top up. The plan was top up.
and they lost the plans between each installment. Oh, we were supposed to connect that elevator shaft. Oh, come on. We'll walk across the hall. It's fine.
Right.
So there's a sign-in sheet in the back. You just scan the QR code and then fill out the form that it gives you.
Right down.
All right.
While you catch your breath.
Yep. Exactly. Time.
Yeah. Perhaps.
It's him.
So I will introduce the workshop, talk about grad legal aid, and eventually getting around to introducing you to and just turning the floor to you. And when things are all done and there's no more questions, I will just say, come and tell me about it. And send them all away. Now, if they want to stay and talk to you, people may come up afterwards and talk, or if you want to try to engage more with the people that's staying. How you want to do it.
We're actually kind of the two perfect people to be here as well, because like the two things we've been asked at, right, the legislative side and the event side. So
Okay.
perfect. Yeah.
Okay, well, great.
I was gonna say, we've done this presentation in less than in 10 minutes,
Right.
but we can also we're going to stretch it out as best as we can. But if there's something that you want to spend a good portion of today's session
We're flexible.
about,
I'm making questions. If I
Please do.
think so, I always participate.
or if they're curious about graduate legal aid services, hey, I didn't know we could notarize things to
Yeah.
you guys or stuff.
Oh, about it.
Please.
So, for sure.
I'm gonna get my degree notarized when I get it, because some countries require that.
Really? So, really, if you wanted to pick the class, if you wanted to pick 30 minutes,
Definitely not 30, no, not 30 minutes. Yeah,
but
we got like 15 probably.
it's
Maybe
more so
Yeah, if we're stretching. You can really see
fun
it.
For sure.
and learn about GS.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
you're graduating, right?
What, maybe? Yeah, yes, my injury has delayed my,
He has longer time than I do.
Okay, when are you done?
Man.
final, this last year. So,
This is why we need to.
Yeah.
like, get started, especially master's students, because like, you got 2 years. Like,
No.
if some are
If you
listening.
miss year one, there's really.
Yeah.
Cause right now I'm clocked out, like,
Yeah.
I got a seminar paper I need to work on, I got so many other things. I gotta figure out what's next in terms of job opportunities.
I mean, I'm actually, I have a year left and I'm still in that place just because the, like, the PhD job market's like that. Right now.
Yeah.
Like, I gotta finish my dissertation and figure out where to get hired.
You will.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
This is mostly for the report.
Yeah.
Because, do I have the permission? to
Yeah.
record? Okay, great.
For those that just came in, there's a sign-in sheet in the back, so if you registered in advance, and if you didn't register in advance, just scan the QR code and fill out the form that it takes you to. What's it called? Turk?
I don't use that anymore.
Okay. Doesn't
It's
work.
too cumbersome.
Yeah, we,
Now I just have a Google sheet and then
we should do kids turn playing.
right, exactly. Like I should. And it didn't get like a clear message signed in. So I'm so done. I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, yeah, that's actually, I'm gonna do this. Speaking of last time on.
You registered by yesterday, please? You did register by yesterday.
So you just want to like tag team with that,
Based on your registration.
whatever works best. I know since I was looking at it, yes.
Something. You just split it up based on.
I'm messing with it, that's.
Oh, okay. Well, you can feel free to, whatever you need to do, guys.
You gotta figure out which one.
Yeah.
Which one we do. That starts the team, this is basically how the structure, if you wanna go into that structure. You go-
Yeah. We really, it looks like we honestly can't just.
Yeah.
So,
So I can
That makes
happily
sense.
do this, because I literally remember, and if a student's like, oh, what about
right. You might have.
aerospace engineering? I'm like, yep, I remember that one being
Right.
big. So that's.
Right.
Or
I feel comfortable in anything, so.
if I feel
Yeah,
like-
exactly. Yeah. I'll take it.
I just don't wanna say junior,
Yeah.
because I feel like that's the most unprofessional thing we can do.
Yeah. You don't care about us? True. I'm with you.
I've been in presentations and I've been in this presentation. I think I'm just the person so.
Yeah, I'm used to, academic presentations, they're like, everyone's awkward and terrible. So like,
So, here's my.
exactly, like, okay, you're just reading it, got it. And it's a lot of stuff, gotta get a lot to get through, but, no.
First time looking over.
Yeah.
this.
You put this together last night in your hotel room. I know, just like the thing.
But I at least stayed up till 3 a.m. actually looking at
Exactly.
this. This isn't pretty.
Is that being the podium or over there? Doesn't matter.
She said we can use the lectern podium or we could walk around. Sorry, I messed up your masterpiece. I'm fired.
Yep.
I'm fired.
It
Okay.
doesn't look messed up.
Okay.
I think it, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's good for me.
So, Mr.
Yes, I have. I am currently, so that's a good question. So I was a, but then I was injured for 2 years and accomplished nothing. So as a result, research that
Do you have to start over?
I need to, not
Or
completely,
refresh.
I need to refresh.
Okay.
Now, fortunately, some of the stuff that made my proposed lab date was my own work. So like, it could be worse. Because
Yeah.
at least I can, okay, I know.
Right. You're not relying on
Yeah.
someone else.
Right, I know what I've progressed in, but
Right.
it does mean I've already done the thing I've proposed. So
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't, technically I'm still ABD, but I'm also gonna have to defend what will be.
Okay.
That's where.
Life happens,
Yeah.
and hopefully this is the,
Academically,
yeah,
I mean, tenure review, but eventually.
wow.
But that's 10 years from now, so whatever.
Is it how long it generally takes?
Yeah.
Okay, in the humanities in general or?
Social science, science and stuff.
Social science.
Yeah, I don't, humanities, I think it's pretty common around that as well. That's
Right.
what I know from like the humanities professors.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay, cool.
it can be less if you are a particularly high activity school. And,
Yeah.
I mean, it's how much can you crank out and how much can you select, like high impact and all that.
Yeah,
But
do you think that's stable?
I don't know. I'm gonna go where the job market is.
That's a great attitude.
Yeah, it is easier for me to say in a place I'm not going, and there are a few.
Are there?
Yeah, but I'll put it.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to the south. There are a few great schools down there that I'm not doing it for a variety of reasons. I even have family down there, but I'm like, I'm not doing it with people. It's just not.
Your work is subject to
Yes.
all of the scrutiny of.
Yes.
You must
So
like.
10 years of journalism and then journalism. Yeah, no. I'll have my grant funding frozen because of low gender ID. Yeah.
And you are stuck. I love it.
Staring at
And
I don't even know how you do that.
by getting very angry at her. American girl. It's not a universal issue.
So who do you follow? To get like the most.
trustworthy.
I started doing ProPublica.
ProPublica is an excellent.
And, but they do a deep dive.
No, yeah, they're investigating.
So I enjoy that, but I always like, sometimes I just want.
They don't break news.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And
For those that are just coming in, there's a sign-in sheet in the back. Just feel free to fill out the form that it prompts you to when you scan the QR code.
Where's your friend?
I'm sorry to hear that your work is.
I mean, and what's really rough is that like it was literally like I was on the cutting edge, right? And then my injury happened, and then literally a special issue dedicated to the topic of my dissertation around prestigious journals in the country, in the world, actually. Like, yeah, special issue on your dissertation, no, they published. I'm like, oh, cool. So everything I was working on is going to be everything validated. An entire special issue dedicated to specifically what I was going to do. Still, like, cool. Yeah. It's no longer bleeding in. Yeah. I mean, it gives me more work for me, but it was like, I could have been one of those. Perfectly positioned. And I think what's frustrating, like, I knew what I was saying. Yeah.
you were like, no one else is doing
Yeah,
it.
I have identified the holes. Yeah. And if I hadn't randomly been injured, I would have. But oh well, life happens.
Life happens.
Yep.
I that seems to be what
Yeah, well,
better for worse.
and there's like, I'm working more psychology with it now, which wasn't something to consider previously. And that's cool. Like honestly, like that's a new novel approach that not many people are doing. I've never done it. It's like really, sure.
Yeah.
There are theories that are relevant to me. I have a mentor who happens to work in psych as comms, like psych and comms and how you know effective communication, mass communication.
Okay.
So sure. It's unusual. It's multidisciplinary. It's always good. In job hunts, they really like multidisciplinary. So yeah, you know, I'm trying to not like just get all of my.
And I'm sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, I already like that's what I did. Like I'm probably going to reapply for the and run for president. So I can hopefully get.
Yeah.
Will be the desperately poor whoever gets presidency that hire the other one desperate property. Get through this. Seriously. Because yeah, there's not for the most part, right? Because we're not seeing
Yeah.
we are entirely
And that would be a really amount of, unless the president said, tries to cut it.
yeah, right. I think yeah.
And as long as the board of trustees backs it,
That's the trick, right? Although even then, like, the
Student
university, well,
activism.
and the university senate still has to.
Yeah.
That's the whole, and that is like, it's not unique to us.
They
That's
make
how-
money.
Right.
More money off.
Absolutely. Well, not only that, but like, student fees in every public university separated from the general fund for that.
Yeah.
Make it harder. So we got keep our lines with being so close to standing.
Yeah.
Not great.
Especially when, again, how you want to be funding.
Issues. And if they determine they get this, which isn't supposed to be others. You can hear my. If you had that.
Yeah.
Pretty well. But yeah.
And I'm not always the most confident, but I agree with those sentiments.
Yeah. I for people who are straight, I'm not gonna, it's Michael's call to make, I'm not. Yeah. Yeah, and we should insist on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I think that's actually. That's the whole point. Of
Yeah.
Yeah, this is separate because there is like stamp studs get fucked up, right? So that needs to not be the case. Should be need to be able to function independently. That's the whole point. But I'm not. That's a fight thing. Several generations from now.
That's the thing about us. We do our best.
Yeah, but there's only
To survive.
Yeah, exactly.
And the next people.
But good luck. I am confident that we'll only address you in better place. Just because.
That's what's to be. Yeah.
The more, and I always say that the more I feel that way. Oh, it was being held together with flying and chewing gum, and it was in the air, flying and falling apart as it flew. I'm rescuing Adam GSP by the end of the year. Well, fine. It wasn't the worst year we've had. That was probably the funniest year we've had. One of the worst ones we've had. Usually recording history.
Yeah.
They haven't impeached anyone. They no one got impeached. Didn't get exposed. Yeah. So I think the bar is very low. You should be able to clear. have, I think the biggest hurdle is children.
Yeah.
It's like, that's really hard here at the end.
Yeah, and it takes like 2-3 months, but June, July. It took like 3 months to actually figure out what to do.
And it would be really great, like the next group was one week.
Yeah.
Of reading documents that I can do. We're discussing nothing. Anyway.
32. So we're gonna record this. Semester, I'll let you know. Stats. So, it's recording right now, but it's to be. Again, when I'm done. So, we're gonna go get started. Okay.
If you guys have friends, contact your friends, tell them to come. It's a good time.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's gonna be a casual conversation.
Where?
First group.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right, we'll let him in.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess we will.
Right. Well, I want to be respectful of your time and our schedule. So let's go ahead and get started. And, you know, I understand grad students are busy people. We understand, but I'm glad you're here. So welcome. This is our first GRadulting workshop of the semester. And if you haven't figured it out yet, GRadulting is grad student and adult, and you combine that, come on in. There's some cool, I think they're cool stickers on the back table, the yellow ones. Put those on your laptops and on your water bottles and don't live GRadulting. My name is Debbie McCuskey, and I am the coordinator for graduate student legal aid. Come on in. And let's see. We have a small staff at Legal Aid. We're a part-time office, but I am one of 4 people on staff. We have an attorney. His name is Zach Mundy. If you ever need help, you might be speaking with him. And we also have an immigration attorney that we contract with. I'll get to that in a minute. And we have a couple advocates on staff. So what's our job? Our job is to help you in several different ways. First category of service is legal. So our attorney Zach meets with students over legal issues, like the number 1 issue that students complain about is their landlords, right? Is everybody here renting? Yeah, so y'all get it. I hope y'all have a good landlord, but you might not. So if problems arise and you need help, you're going to come and contact us. Second category of service, our immigration attorney. So because there's so many international students as grad students, our office contracts with an outside immigration attorney. That is her specialty. And her name is Patricia Minicon. And don't wait until the month before you graduate to request an appointment, right? You might not get one. So sooner than later, and you can have one appointment, up to one appointment per year, because demand can be very high. So, we have advocates on staff. I'm sure none of you will ever need this service, but you know, students get in trouble. Sometimes they get charged by the Office of Student Conduct or by the Office of Office of Civil Rights and Sexual Misconduct. I always tell them it happens, but we have advocates on our team, and their job is to help students understand the process, help them make decisions along the way. It's just a formal support. I am a notary public, so if you need something notarized, we're going to meet in person. Our office is located over in the South Campus Dining Hall. Every once in a while, I'll meet students here in Stamp, but usually it takes just a few minutes. And our final category of service is this, our GRadulting Workshop Series. So the schedule for workshops is out here, posted outside the door. It will be in our newsletter, and I hope that all of you, even the new students, will get our newsletter. I'm waiting to get the list of new students. So in that newsletter, we talk about our services, we tell you what the upcoming workshop is. We just try to keep you informed and remind you. So if you just arrived or you arrived while I was speaking, you didn't get a chance to sign in, I really need you to sign in. And because what I use that for is to prove that I didn't eat all the pizza in the back there, right? I have to show that I shared it with all of you. So please use that QR code on the table to sign in. And maybe I'll even pass that sheet around. You don't have to get up, but if you want to get up and stretch, that's fine too. But it's just a simple code and you're just going to register with your UMD email address. So, let's see, after the workshop tomorrow, I'm going to send you a few things by email. I'm going to send you the slides, a link to the recording, and information about the next workshop. I do that after every single workshop. So, I think that we can move on, and I can. We've got a twofer today. We have two executive members of graduate student government, and we're just going to be informal today and introduce you to GSG if you don't know who they are. But they do some amazing things, and it's important for you all as grad students to understand what happens behind the scenes, right? So, first up, we've got Devon Pender. He is the Vice President for Legislative Affairs. He's getting his master's degree in higher education, student affairs, and international education policy. Woo! Woo! Yes, welcome. And also joining us is Keegan Clement Hauser. Keegan is the Director of Operations, and he's getting his PhD in journalism studies. So, thank you, Doug. All right. I know, I did remember. And, yeah, here we go.
Again, welcome. Thank you all for coming. We're going to keep this pretty casual, comfortable. If you have any questions about the presentation, feel free to ask them during the presentation. Just raise your hand, whatever. We'll call one of you, and we can go from there.
I will also say that it'll be pretty clear as we present. Devon here is the legislative affairs, the represented elected body of graduate student government side of things. On the staff and planned event side of things. So if you have questions about legislative action, things like that, Devon's your person. If you have questions about events or the day-to-day operations of GSD, including advocacy work, I'm the person asking. Yeah.
Again, we are the graduate student government executive members. The one thing we will say just on the side quickly is graduate student government, you all are a part of graduate student government. You might not necessarily be elected or appointed as the representative for your program, but you have a say in your program. You have a say in the events that we put together. You have a say in the legislation that we stand for. You have a say in just graduate representation. If you think the dean of the graduate school, Dr. Stephen Rupp, if you have any questions, concerns about policy changes at the institutional level, you have a right to ask those questions. You can come to us and we can vocalize them to the intended recipient at the end of the day. So you are all part of the graduate student government.
And I will add to that, in addition to like having questions and things like that, we will advocate always. So that can be unofficially. It's actually usually how it goes down. So if you're having trouble finding a GA ship, for example, if you were promised one, but it fell through, funding ran out, whatever, and you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, let us know. We can and will find a way to make it work. And if we can't do it ourselves, we have partners who can. We have this year 100% success rate of getting people connected to the resources that we need. So just let us know and we'll find.
It's our jobs. Again, we are members of the executive team. My name is Devon Pember. As Debbie mentioned, I serve as the Vice President for Legislative Affairs, all things regarding legislative actions, positions that we take as the graduate student government, and any concerns we might have. Keegan, you want to quickly?
Yeah, and I am, as also already mentioned, the Director of Operations. We'll go into a little more detail on this in our organizational chart in just a moment, but yeah, I think you can figure out which ones are us from the photos, I hope.
And if you see any of our colleagues, if you see us on campus, make sure to say hi. Var Pucretti is our president. Michael Bailey, that is our vice president for financial affairs and student fee matters. So if you have any questions about student fees that you pay, Michael's your person. And then Rhea Singh is our chief of staff. She's also what I like to say is our arms and legs for committee matters.
Committee wrangler.
Yep. And also, I'm going to do a quick pitch for committees on that topic. We have an abundance of committees that you can serve on, whether that's legislative affairs or
Civic engagement,
community development, academic affairs.
student affairs,
There's a whole bunch of committees that you can sit on.
and anyone can do it.
Yeah, anyone can do it. If you just have questions and you're curious about how it happens, how student affairs matters, what it means, you can always come and join the committee. You can always come and join a meeting. And in those meetings, that's where you really understand what it is that we do as the graduate student government in relation to some of these external activities. How do we connect with Sam? How do we connect with the vice president of student affairs? Some of those special things, special topics that impact our everyday lives as students.
And to add to that real quickly, committees are actually a fantastic way to get involved, especially in the middle of the semester. You don't need to be an elected representative to be part of a committee. You don't even need to be an elected representative to chair a committee for the most part. Few exceptions, but it is open to any currently enrolled graduate student in good standing. And in good standing simply means you don't have an exec on your record, because that excludes you from all university activities, including us. But otherwise, anyone can participate if you're currently enrolled graduate student.
And this is from your first semester, from your first day, and all the way through your all but dissertation phase. Once you walk across the stage.
All right, so I will handle this. This is the closest we could get to showing you our organizational chart. It's actually a little more complicated than this. So as Devon earlier alluded to, you're all graduate student government, all of you. As soon as you are enrolled and attend your first class, and actually a little before that, you are a voting member graduate student government. You are eligible to vote in our general elections every year, and when we have vacancies in your department or your program for a representative, you are eligible to vote for your representative. And as mentioned, you are also eligible to join committees and chair them even. And also to point this out, committees set policy. They often participate in advisory capacities to, like, the president's office, like, UMD president's office. So, like, it is a very tangible, real way to get involved, and it's a good way to get, like, test the waters if you're not sure if you're able to commit to a full rep position and don't necessarily feel like running yet. We definitely encourage it. So, that's kind of the all grad students quarter up there, right? And then we have so the graduate student assembly is the kind of the main body of graduate student, and those are your elected representatives. Every single program, and that means program code, not department, is eligible for up to 1 to 3 representatives, depending on how many people are here. And I think we have a slide that details the numbers coming up, so I'll leave that for that. But those elected representatives are your voice in student government and also the university as a whole. And if you are unsure who your representative is, or you see that your representative seat is vacant and would like to run, let us know. Specifically, let me know. I'm also the chair of elections committee, and I will run a special election for you. So, yeah, that is the student assembly side of things. Student assembly also is the body that votes on everything we do. We're also the ones who elect 2 out of 3. Well, I guess this year was 1 out of 3 executive team officers. So, Devon's position is elected by by a vote of this General Assembly. Whereas the other two positions, the president and the chief of, or not the chief of staff, the president and the VP of financial affairs are on currently by the student bodies. But yeah, committees are empowered by the student assembly. Everything basically starts with the students. Then we have the executive team. So the executive team has two branches. We have the elected branch, and that is the three officers positions of the president, elected by the general student body, the vice president of legislative affairs, already introduced, elected by the assembly, and then the vice president of financial affairs, which is also elected by the student body, and is in charge of not only student fees, but also budgeting for graduate student organizations, campus events, that sort of thing. So yeah, that's that side of things. On the other side is staff. I'm not elected. I'm appointed by a majority vote of the executive team, the elected executive team, as the director of operations. Think of my role as like, if you're familiar with nonprofit structure, I'm like the executive director, right? So the day-to-day management of the organization, making sure the lights stay on and the wheels keep turning. That's my role. Working on anything kind of underneath me, kind of not as chief staff, was also director committees and also manage their social media accounts and that sort of thing. And we sometimes have a speaker, but currently vacant, so I won't bore you with that.
The one thing I will say, and Keegan can correct me if I'm wrong, later this semester, in around April, you usually get that email saying the elections for graduate student government are open. In those elections, you vote on the president, and then you vote for the vice president of financial affairs and student fee matters, and then you vote for your program representative. There might be some type of verbiage in there on some special questions, but the three important things are the president, vice president for student fee matters, vice president of financial affairs and student fee matters, and then your program representative, because these are people that are representing you at the end of the day. So I always encourage students, if you're not one of those individuals running, please run, but secondly, please vote as well.
And this year is actually a particularly important year because we have a once every 5 years bylaws and constitution review. And the Constitution, to amend our Constitution, requires a vote of the general graduate student body. So please do consider our documentation that we're sending out around March and vote. Seriously, thank you.
Another few things of what we actually do. We represent a huge group of graduate students. As we mentioned earlier, it's master's students, doctoral students, it's graduate certifications that you're looking for. There's even some dual certifications that we do with Howard or American or some of these local schools that they're technically considered our graduate students. So we still represent you, and those individuals are entitled to program representation as well. So we're interested in what are your concerns? What is it that you care about? If you have an issue about stamp not being super accessible, you can communicate that to us at the end of the day.
We're one of the voting members of the stamp advisory board, so like we could actually meaningfully offer feedback and actually get heard. So
yeah. And on top of that, we participate in dialogue and advocacy. We connect all the time with UMD staff. We connect with faculty, and as I alluded to earlier, we connect with the administration. We'll have monthly meetings with the president of the institution. There's a provost advisory committee. There's graduate school advisory committee. I serve on the athletics council, so I talked with the athletic director and understand how graduate athletes are impacted in our school.
And to add to that real quick, we also extend that advocacy to the state and actually the federal level as well.
Yeah.
So like I attend a weekly or a monthly meeting on the University System of Maryland Student Council. I'm one of the representatives. And that's University System of Maryland wide. So the entire state, all state schools, we have a voice there as well. So
yeah. And even one more, like another level is just the local government as well. So if the city of College Park is voting on building new high-rise apartments, because that seems to be the new standard around, if they're interested in that, we can always connect with them and say, hey, is this something that graduate students actually want? How many units are graduate students entitled to if this passes, or this absolutely isn't going to be good?
So we can have those conversations as well. And just extending, we're creating partnerships on campus and off campus.
And to quickly build off of that real quick, an example, tangible example of what we've done recently. So last year, there was a housing subsidy task for students, including graduate students in the College Park area. University of Maryland, GSG was one of the main partners pushing for that legislation that actually ended up passing. Yeah, it was a year-long effort. Our last year's president, Autumn Perkey, was involved in it the entire year, but it worked. It paid off in the end. So we actually do affect meaningful change. So that's why you should actually engage.
And as Keegan said earlier, what we always try to do is connect students to resources and opportunities. Get you involved, get you connected, get you to the job opportunities, get you to the places where you want to be. And then we offer just peer support and community building. We always host monthly assembly meetings that are always open to the public, always open to the graduate student body. And usually at those meetings, we bring in campus partners, talk about what they do on campus and their experience that they bring to the table and how that experience contributes to the graduate student body.
So we already covered some of this, so this will be a little shorter than others. As mentioned, we do advocacy on a campus level, and that can include official advocacy such as serving on advisory boards or actually sometimes voting boards, having representatives unofficially at this point, the University Senate, things like that. But we can also be unofficial in the way we approach it. So for example, at the beginning of this academic year, we had someone who was, as I kind of alluded to earlier, was supposed to get a GA ship and didn't, and also wasn't receiving the mentorship that they needed to get help from their program to get into their dissertation and to actually get into the final stages of the PhD program, which is the problem. So we contacted the graduate school and their school dean and a variety of other individuals, including the UMCP's office, which is a fantastic resource. We have time, I'll talk about them as well. And it worked out. It wasn't anything, we didn't vote on anything. There was no formal process. It was entirely informal. It was entirely networking. But that kind of soft networking power is incredibly important. It's something that we build and maintain. And it's one of the main strengths we have, I would say. As far as other things go, as mentioned, we were one of the main advocates for subsidies for student housing. We also do work at the state level to address things like when, an example that's on the docket right now, but when should students be considered in-state for tuition purposes? What about people who are undocumented or who are immigrants or who are here on a semi-temporary visa, but not actually, an education visa? What are those complexities? How should they be handled? That's something that we advocate for our international students on their behalf, and is an ongoing discussion. So I can't say much more than that, but as an example of a topic we're covering right now. Also mental health, the mental health embedding program. I don't know if you've heard about it, but the counseling center is slowly, as funding allows, rolling out a program where mental health professionals are being embedded in schools, right? And ideally, professionals who are experienced with that type of work pressure or whatever that might be unique to that area of study. And that was something that GSG helped push for, because one of the biggest issues when I started GSG 3 years ago is there was no reliable access to mental health. And stress is a big deal as a grad student, right? Especially if you're teaching other students, if you're teaching undergrad classes, trying to manage your own research and trying to publish and trying to also just keep your grades up. It's a lot, and it's unique and not something that we found the counseling center was equipped to handle. They're geared towards undergrads, which that makes sense. There's a lot of them, but we were being left out. So examples like that are signed. That's an example of an advocacy program that is ongoing, but also really important. I think we pretty much covered what. Yeah, the rest of the list, I won't go exhaustively into all of them. We'd be here all day. But yeah, those are some, I think, salient examples.
In the past, we always do events for our graduate student body. our biggest event of the year is our Graduate Research Appreciation Day.
One of our two biggest. I'd say our two biggest are actually, so one is the International Student Travel Program, which we operate during the summer, which is how a lot of you are introduced to GSU in the first place. And me specifically, I was the guy behind those emails. But also, we operate a Graduate Research Appreciation Day, which is, yes, April 9th this year. And that is basically like a mini conference. It's an opportunity to present your original research as a team or as an individual, get it reviewed by your peers, get it judged just like you would at an actual academic conference. We're working on awards and prizes and that sort of thing as well to make it as close to the real thing as possible. Our goal is to make it an actual real thing, and also to have when possible faculty and actual professors in the field beyond those panels as well. So those are two examples of, one is for trying to make sure you actually get here and aren't stranded at the airport. The other one is to make sure that you have an idea of how research works at the graduate level and aren't just tossed out in the job market with nothing to show for it because you weren't told about that side at all. Because I know in some programs, it's just like professional programs, even though there is research and it's something you should be familiar with. I know a lot of professional programs don't, bother. Mine certainly didn't. So, yeah.
Again, there's a few other events that we put on, breakfast. We try to do some type of food event where there's always going to be food to support. We're in the same boat as you all.
Yeah.
We're all
Food
hungry
motivated,
graduate
yep.
students. We're trying to figure out where our next meal is coming from sometime.
Most of these events happen in the spring, so they'll be happening pretty soon. Is what I'm trying to say here. We don't actually. I'm the one who makes sure these things run and have licenses and all that. But we actually have a committee that plans events like this. So if you're interested in working on GSU events, well, hey, yeah, let us know.
Because that events committee pushes all of these events.
Yeah.
We, as the executive team, can only do so much. But if you want to put on an event at Turk Zone, and you want to invite graduate students to come out, join the events committee and say,
I'll provide the funding.
pizza, and we're going to do all these great
I'll
things.
give you the money and the room reservations. I'll do it.
We said all this to say there's opportunities for you to get involved. And we can only do as much as our arms carry us, and we're stronger. There's strength in numbers at the end of the day. So again, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit opportunities for you to get involved. And if you do it, we all benefit at the end of the day. We're all encouraged to come and show up to these events.
So, funding requests. This is more in my, well, this is actually more in our colleague, VP of Financial Affairs, Michael's realm, but I am the other half of the budget side, so I can probably speak. So one of the big things that we do is that we provide funding for other graduate student organizations. It is up to $1,000 per year. And that can be in either one or two installments. If you have like two events planned, you're like, I need 500 for one, 500 for another, we can do that. We have a process. There's a form on our website, and also I think on Turkling, if anyone actually uses Turkling. Anyway, but not throw shade at Turkling, given the world. But we do have a form, and if you aren't able to find it, let me know. We'll have our contact information at the end. But yeah, it is open for any grad student organization that wants to apply to apply. The approval process is explained in detail, and if you have questions about it, either I or the VP of Financial Affairs will walk you through it. It's not honestly too onerous. Basically, we're asking you to explain what you want, what the money is going to go to, what benefit you see it being provided to your community, and how soon you need it. Basically, if you want something, please schedule bare minimum a month in advance. Make a request no later than that. Ideally, the sooner the better, because it is a bureaucratic process, but we do try to make it fast. Let's see. Oh yeah, sure. An example.
So our good friend Tracy, she felt inspired to put on a Halloween event for parents and students. For students that are parents. So the University of Maryland Graduate Student Organization Parent Affinity Group
came to the graduate student government and said, hey, we want to host a Halloween event and we have funding. They filled out the form, they applied for funding, they came to an assembly meeting, and they received the funding, and they were able to put on in my experience, one of the best events of last semester. So if you can, so if you belong to any organization, you just want to say, hey, I want to put on this event, you're always welcome to. All you have to do is ask. And on the inverse,
Yes, we also have internal committees. We already talked about this a little bit. Here's a non-exhaustive list of the committees that we run every year. So they're mostly self-explanatory, but I'll go over some of the details of some of them. So we have a few that are some of the bigger ones are student affairs, which yes, we do have that. We have student affairs on there. For example, student affairs is there are problems facing the student government or the student body. What are some solutions? What are how we pull resources together? That sort of thing. I actually got started in GSG as the student affairs committee chair, so that's why I push committees so strongly, because I can vouch for them. They're great. But we also have things like elections, international student affairs. Basically, the name suggests what it does. And if you have questions about any of these, let us know. Most of those are open, like I said, to absolutely everyone who's. There are a few like governance that is kind of like our Supreme Court, if you will. They're a little more restricted, but for the most part, yeah. If something on that list strikes your fancy, you'd like to know more, let us know.
So there's opportunities for you to join us. On the next slide after this, we're going to talk about where there are vacancies across our representative positions. Anyone, as Keegan and I shared already earlier, anyone can join committees. We're always looking for additional support in those areas. You can volunteer to help run a graduate student-centered program or an event that we put on. We always look for, in the summer, we always look for international student shuttle volunteers. If you were a beneficiary of the shuttle, or you know somebody that was a beneficiary, were a beneficiary of the shuttle program, it's a testimony to come back and help make sure that your peers are going to be supported once they come to the University of Maryland, once they land in America. You can always volunteer at Graduate Research Appreciation Day. If you want to get involved with that, this is your person right here.
I'm spinning it up right now. In fact, so
and then you can so we have the internal committees that we mentioned, but you can also serve on external committees as well. So if there is
let me sit up, for example. The transportation. Yeah.
So the transportation committee that we sit on, that graduate students, undergraduate students, people, stakeholders across the university sit on these committees. So if you want to get involved and say, hey, I'm use the shuttle, I have a parking pass, I have these issues, I want to talk to Dots about it. There's a committee that
we get two voting seats in the transportation.
You don't have to be a representative to have these seats. If this is something you are passionate about or want further experience in, you are more than welcome to be our graduate student representative in that position. And so again, just talk about some of the vacancies. These are, again, some of the vacancies. If you don't see your program on here, please ask us, because I guarantee you there's probably a vacancy.
The vast majority of seats are currently unfilled, and that's historically been the case. So if you don't know who your rep is, you probably could run for being known.
Yes, absolutely. So most of our engineering majors are vacant. Architecture, business analytics, business administration, MBA programs, those are all vacant. Biological sciences, chemistry, computer science, economics, education broadly. So international ed policy, there is no rep. Special education, there is no rep. TLPL, there is no rep. Education across the board, there's pretty much no representation out of the College of Ed. I will say that. Geographical sciences, you might be classified as a grad student, which this is your four-letter code, which is just an advanced special student. If you have any questions, your testudo, your registration status will have your
We'll have
4 letters over. So if it's that, or if it's one of these, then then your program is vacant. Librarian info science, music, any of our music, veterinary medicine,
I
and
don't think we
again,
have a single music rep at the moment.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, this is a handful, and switching over to the other side, some programs are entitled to more than one representative. So if there's up to 100 students in your program, you get one representative. If there's 101 or 190, not or 200 on the dot, then you get 2 representatives. And then anyone with at least 200, 201 students in your program, you're entitled to 3 representatives at the end of the day. So again, your program might have 2 representatives, but there's 350 students in your program. You still need one more. You still should have one representative at the end of the day. As Keegan mentioned earlier, a lot of those that are in representative seats, you get to appoint the VPLA. You get to have a lot of say in our
You get to set our
internal
budget, you get to set our policies for the year.
Yeah.
Our agenda.
If there's very special legislation that we're voting on, or any fee matters that we're discussing, as a representative, you are the one that has that voting say at the end of the day.
And before we move on real quick, I want to go to the other side. So we have, yes, 3 representatives for 201 plus. Every single graduate program of any size or type gets rep. Every single one. That includes if you have a friend who's like, oh yeah, I'm enrolled for that 6-month certificate program, entirely online, they get a rep. So literally everyone. And the minimum, as it turns out, minimum term is 6 months. So if you're only here for 6 months and you want to go to GSU for that entire time, join us. So seriously, every single graduate program of any sort gets a rep. Yeah.
And then some folks here sitting here thinking, maybe.
Honestly, very low stakes. I wouldn't say more. It's about what you put in at the end of the day. But I would say no more than 5 hours if you choose 5 hours a month if you choose to do so.
Minimum of 2 hours because you do have to show up to our 2-hour assembly meeting each month. Actually, minimum 3 hours because you also need to be part of one committee. So,
Yes. So
although they don't actually necessarily meet every month. So
Yeah.
2 to 3 hours is minimum. I would say.
But if you sit on 10 million committees, that's entirely up to you. But no more than 5 hours. And if you have any conflicts, as long as you verbalize that and communicate it, we are the most understanding team that you'll ever.
We too are very busy grad students.
Yes. Yeah. And one more thing, Keegan was talking about that online certification that you're a part of. All of our online programs are vacant because
Nobody
people
knows if
just-
they can run one.
Literally.
Yeah.
So if you know someone that's doing an online MBA or an online degree in comp sci, tell them, hey, you're entitled to a representative at the end of the day.
All right. So, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, we are involved on things at the UMD level, the USM level, that's the state level, College Park as a city. We're also, it's not mentioned because we're out of space, Prince George's County, and then as I mentioned, also on the federal level. We will, not every year, but we will occasionally participate in national conferences. And that includes all the advocacy work and legislative action work. That includes also like advocacy days and like lobbying days at Annapolis, for example, to try to push for student conditions or like already work for the issue that the student body has decided through the assembly that we should pursue. We also, there's a list of organizations we are either active participants in or advisory members of. Basically, that's called kind of getting themselves or networking. We're often not because we're by nature not apolitical and nonpartisan. We are often not directly involved, and we will often be advisory members or observational members of various organizations as well. And even if we are not able to personally And as an organization, we're formally engaged in something, we are always happy to connect people with causes they care passionately and help them find the community that they want to find, whatever that may look like for them. So yeah, as far as achievements go, we've mentioned some of these already. We've also, I guess, on the list, we also have done things like push for end camps that were actually implemented during COVID-19, minimum stipends. That's was a contentious issue that, like, I mean, it's still ongoing, but we keep pushing for it. Of like, okay, but cost of living is going up higher than our stipends are increasing, our minimum stipends, and we cannot leave it just to departments or schools to figure out whether or not they want to actually pay a living wage. We all need a living wage. We all need to be able to pay rent. Rent is not getting any cheaper, as it turns out. So things like that are what we try to do. As far as things like grad, that event that we keep talking about, that often involves other universities who are also participating in their own research and appreciation days at the same time. And we try to build networks and alliances between schools and different student governments as well. So, yeah.
So just stay in touch with us. We're not asking you to commit to anything. We're asking you to be open to opportunities. You can always scan our QR code.
I see our URL.
You're right.
That says join GSG.
This QR code will take you to our link tree, which has additional information about us, where our office is located, our website,
All our socials, etc. Yeah.
who is your program representative, if your program has a representative at this time. And you can subscribe to our graduate student life newsletter through this QR code. So I encourage you all to scan that one. And if you might, right now, you don't know if your program has a representative. It doesn't hurt for you to apply. The least we can do is say, hey, there's already a representative, but you can join our committee.
Yeah.
And if you want to get involved with committees as well, that QR code it'll allow you can indicate if you want to get involved in a committee, if you want to get involved in any capacity, you would do it through that QR code.
That actually, it basically takes you to an interest form. And that interest form lists every way you can conceivably become involved in GSG. You mark down the ones you're interested in, we review it, you connect you with the right people. Simple as that. So yeah, nothing too intimidating, nothing binding. It's just, hey, I'm interested. Tell me more.
Perfect. So I'm gonna leave this another 5 seconds. If anyone still needs to take QR code scans and pictures.
And we'll be sharing these slides with you, so you'll.
And then lastly, we wanted to share our contact information with you all. We wanted to, our website is super easy to find, gsgumd.org. That's where you can find that interest form. That's where you can learn who your program rep is. Again, if you don't see that rep up there, then
You don't have a rep. Right?
you don't have a rep.
But you should try. Try running for it.
And if you have any GSG inquiries, you can always you can always send us an email, gsg-office@umd.edu. If you have any specific questions, this is our entire executive team. You can send us an email. You can put us all in the same email if you have a really, really large complaint and you're like, I need everyone on board with this issue.
You wouldn't be the first or the last.
Yeah. While these are up here, please write them down. Please take a picture of them. I do want to extend an invitation. Our assembly meeting for this month is actually this Friday at noon via Zoom. If you want to join, you can always email us or
Email him specifically.
email me specifically. Our Zoom link will go on our website too.
And we'll send an invite.
So you're always invited. Next month, it will be in person, February 28th, again at noon. It'll be in STEM. We will certainly try to have food. The president's going to be there. The provost is going to be there. So these are conversations that you don't want to miss. Again, you want to praise our administration for something they've done greatly. You can do that in the space. You want to berate our administration. You can certainly do that in the best way possible. Please, in the best way possible. We are just facilitating these conversations, so please do not do anything that could be reported or sensible.
remember, you're all already members of GSG.
Absolutely. Our meetings usually take place at the end of every month, on the Friday at the end of every month, besides May, I want to say, because we don't go all the way through May. And our meetings will be posted on our website. Again, they always begin at noon, and they're usually 2 hours. You can come and go as you please. And if you have any questions, again, that's what we're here for. We're here to support you. You're already part of GSG, and we just want you to know that you're supported to and through the programs at the end.
Yeah, and also mention, all of our, we have two ways you can look at previous legislative sessions. So we have a YouTube channel. We upload a recording of them on the Monday following whatever the meeting is. We also have on our website a list of all of the previous agendas we've had, as well as any legislative items that have been voted on. Yeah.
Any questions at this time? I know we gave you a mouthful of information, but we tried to synthesize it in the best way possible. Any, Tracy?
What are the terms of service? Like, is it a year, 2 years?
Minimum of 6 months. Otherwise, there's maximums for the officers, but not for general representatives, for the most part. I think there is one, like, you can't do like more than four consecutive terms or something like that, but it very rarely comes up for grad students.
So another. Yes.
Yeah, do you guys, have a list of kind of like current, or any regulation that notes, or just could you let us know some of the current, like more concrete things, like what specific? But I think it's still a little bit like what the day-to-day kind of stuff about.
So the most recent big item has been a continuing and ongoing, I think this is year 10 at this point, push for the right to collectively bargain as graduate students. Because as is at present, grad students and actually faculty also to collectively bargain under state law, which I gotta say is someone. Yeah, it's extremely limiting, and it also puts at a serious disadvantage when it comes to advocacy and marketing. As you might expect, that's why you want bargaining. So that's a good example.
And when we say bargaining, it's anyway from wages and benefits and international student support, academic support. It's a range of things at the end of the day.
Work conditions.
Yeah.
That's actually a very big one.
Housing.
Right. So like, here's a reason why, for example, like bargaining is something that our constituents have consistently voted for. We're not state employees or employees full stop. If you're an hourly employee, but if you're a graduate assistant, which means you don't get work protections, you don't get guaranteed breaks, you don't get any of those things that employees get, which means that you have to like piecemeal advocate and through the system called statements of mutual expectations, which is something that GSG actually had to push to get like adopted, and that's not a good option. It's just a stopgap. So like that's informal and it's not binding. Whereas if we had a collective bargaining agreement, if there was enough of an issue and enough people felt strongly about it, collective bargaining can actually force that conversation to be taken seriously. So as an example.
I guess my follow-up is like the very aware of the collective bargaining.
Yeah.
That's happening on campus, of course, it's great that it's concerned. But so you mentioned that you have to verbally, like that you have like the GSA is virtually or like advisorily involved. So I'm curious like how that works and looks. Like if you want to get involved in GSA, that then can't be involved. Anyway,
Yeah, no, that's a good question.
How you all are involved in that.
So it's a good question. It seems complicated on the surface. It's not actually that bad. Basically, you can be part of however many organizations as you want. Politic GSG. The trick is you cannot represent GSG in those organizations, right? So if you are, for example, a member of Blue and also GSG, and you are in a leadership position, you cannot represent GSG in that position. you can say, and bring this to GSG's attention, that's cool. But like, that's the trick, right? So like, and when we work with, advocacy groups or bargaining groups or, you know, that sort of, activist organization, we can work with them on common goals, but we can't endorse them, if that makes sense. And that goes for any type of political advocacy group. So we have very close relationships with several of them, but we're not ever going to be officially allies or, you know, that sort of thing. Yeah. But we often do sign like common statements of agreement and statements of support for issues and that sort of thing, if that answers your question.
And then other things, most recently, there's a lot of fee discussions. So if the committee for student fee review says, hey, or the health center, for example, if they come to us and say, hey, instead of students paying for, hey, we want instead of health
being rolled into tuition, which is as it was.
Yes. We want to implement a health center fee for $130 or something like that. How do graduate students feel about it? And they're going to ask us, and they're going to poll us, and they're going to sit us down and say, "Hey, can we do this? Do graduate students want this?" And at the end of the day, we need to have the right conversations and forum to say, "Hey, do we feel comfortable having a student-centered fee rather than rolling it into tuition?" Or do we want to not do this at all? So these are conversations that we're having, that we actively are having right now as we speak.
And actually, to that point, so to add to that, so the only way that graduate student government can have an official position on something is through a vote of the assembly, right? That we as the executive team cannot. Like the most we can do is have a temporary executive action where we say the executive team supports this pending event. Right, that's the best we can do. So everything goes through your elected representatives. That's why it's so important to you participants. But that also means that if you have legislation you'd like us to pass, or you want to author legislation, you can approach your representative, or actually any representative, any elected member of GSG. So not me and not our chief of staff, but everyone else basically can help you draft that legislation and present it to the assembly. So anyone can get involved. Devon is the person to contact for that. So there's my email.
Any other questions? Yes.
We do have a quorum. So quorum, we need to reach quorum, which is 1/3 plus one of currently elected representatives need to be present. It used to be half plus one, but that shrank during COVID because we couldn't actually get that much. COVID, we might raise it again, but at the moment, at least. So it is currently we have 44 elected representatives, so it'd be 1/3 of that plus one would need to be there to vote, basically. We want a strong plurality.
Yeah, and add on a different note to answer a question I think you might be getting. Keegan talked about bylaws in the Constitution.
yeah.
That is something where all graduate students are going to have to.
And that's what
Yes. But more so graduate student government legislation as a third plus one. So
we do have a vote, but we're not the only. So, for example, that we have 2 votes on that committee, but there are also 9 votes total. So we don't have final say, but we do actually have meaningful.
in the city, we have discretion. President. Yeah.
Right, yeah, the president can override, but almost. But we do have a meaningful say in those.
And we can communicate with other voting.
Basically, it's other student group, not necessarily seniors, it's other bodies on campus, like the grad school or not.
It might benefit them. So if graduate students pay this and it takes away from undergraduate, now it benefits someone else, but it.
Yeah, we often work
works.
with undergraduate student government to make sure we're not at cross purposes.
Yes. Any other questions? No.
I do actually think a more specific answer to your question. I think we need to have 1/14 is the current number. It's kind of a weird archaic number, but I think it's 1/14 of the graduate student bodies. So if nobody votes for something, then it does not in fact go. Even if there's like 7 votes.
Anything else? Any lasting questions? Any lingering thoughts? If you don't want to ask them now, we'll be around later. You can always email us. Again, we are the most transparent and trusting and honest individuals you'll ever meet.
By necessity, that's how it works. So yeah.
Thank you all for being a great audience.
Join me in thanking Keegan and Yvonne.
Well, for being here. No, I'll call for the microphone.
Just one more minute. Thank you for showing up today. Thank you for being here. It's good for us to connect. I'm gonna send you an email to our evaluation form. We want to hear, do you like these workshops? Does it work for you? Do you want us to address a different topic? So just take 1 minute to fill that out, please. Next Tuesday morning, there will be a free breakfast that we are co-sponsoring along with Grad Student Life. I will include information about that in the email I'm sending tomorrow. And then the following Tuesday, we're having another workshop. The topic is employment contracts. Sometimes those things are written in a whole different language, but we have a specialist attorney who will talk about what's in these contracts, what you need to be looking for, how do you read them. So great workshop. And I know there's a little bit of pizza left, so if you'd like to grab one more slice before you leave, please feel free to help yourself. And have a good week. Welcome back.
Yeah. Like I said, we have.
Like 10 minutes.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, we did say it was very, yeah. We freeze over.
You can't, but
Please, please.
yeah, please connect.
Yes.
Because in my bachelor's, I was in graduating, so I was thinking.
Right.
So I was thinking, is there
That is actually one of the.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
I have connected from the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. There may. Yes, yes, yes. But if not, we do have committees and.
Yeah.
That is a. Are you graduating this year? Is it?
No, this is my first.
So if not this year.
Yeah, so how's the process going?
So the joint trustee that was partially cut off. That takes you to the interest form. Just fill that out and say that you're just. Or join for the, whatever. I think it's volunteering.
Okay, like all the things, yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm the one who monitors that next year. Well, myself and chief staff. So